my name is Jane Buckman. I'm the Executive Director of Imagine Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I want to welcome you to our conversation today with Peter Bremers from the Netherlands as we continue exploring the artists who make up our theme for 2021, Imagine the World. And Natalia, you want to run the video? And then we have another video of Peter.
Another one.
Another one that is an introduction. So I'm told we have this, and we'll see if it comes through. And if not, I'm just going to move forward. Oh, here we go.
Basically, give my interpretation of what nature means for me. That means that every decision you take is irreversible.
I try to catch and to capture beauty. I find there's a lot of ugliness in the world.
The physical body is what we wake up in every morning.
Life is fragile. Life can snap like glass can, you know, and that makes them both very precious. Glass is a mirror of life itself.
Okay, so I'm going to do my introduction for Peter. So Peter is also our Artist of the Future for 2021. His work is dramatically displayed in an exhibition entitled Transformation and Transcendence, which is here on view at Imagine Museum until January 16th, 2022. If you haven't yet come out to see this exhibit, please make a note to do so. It is a breathtaking display of sculptural elements captured in glass, both familiar and unfamiliar, that speak to the beauty and the form of nature, our own psyche, and our sense of self and reflection. Peter has shown his work all over the world and is in many public and private collections. I encourage you to go to his website, peterbremers.com, for a more in-depth view of his remarkable career as a sculptor who works within the glass medium. In Peter's artist statement, he reflects, and I am paraphrasing a bit, how one gets inspired is such a personal and often intuitive or even spiritual process. Traveling and nature seem to touch and excite me profoundly. I look at our world, but I am an intricate part of it as well. I am a witness and a participant. That often puzzles my mind, challenges my heart, and questions my soul. It is a journey into understanding. In art, I feel most bonded with my spirit, source with a capital S, nature, the world, mankind, and the universe. My attempt is to give my ever-changing vision of beauty to this world. And now I want to introduce to you Peter Bremers. How about that, Peter?
Oh boy, oh boy. I have my moments, Jane. I do have my moments.
I know, and I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing your beauty with us. It's such a time for us to have the type of beauty that you inspire. So let's dive right in and let's talk about your work that's now on display at Imagine Museum. And so we do have 19 slides that you have provided for us. So as the slides move forward, just feel free to talk over the slides.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, for your sweet introduction. You're a dear friend and you know it. We
I
go
do.
back quite a while. So.
Yes, we do now. We do.
Perception, we're diving right in. Well,
We're going to
I-
dive
I
right
would-
in. Go for it.
I would love to tell you a little story that is the origin of perception. I grew up in a house in downtown Maastricht in the Netherlands. House was built in 1627, and we had a shop downstairs, but next to it was a staircase with its own door that opened up to the street. In the door was a slit for the mailman to put, to put the mail in. And as a little boy, I was about 5 years old, I would open that slit and look outside into the street. But because the slit was only narrow, all I would see was basically people walking by or cycling by, and I would see a part of their legs and a part of their body, but I couldn't see their faces unless they were small like me. But I would see, for instance, that they were carrying a shopping bag or a school bag or whatever. And I was always intrigued by that. That to me was a real fun game to do, because my imagination would go wild, of course, because I could imagine that they would have heads like balloons, or they would have huge shoes on like clowns or whatever. Anyway, that memory came back to me much later in life, not that long ago. And it came back because I realized while traveling how we all look at the same thing and see something completely different. How our perception is such a personal thing. So when I had a chance to do this exhibition at the Fort Wayne Museum in Fort Wayne, Indiana, I asked Charles Shepard if he would be open to give me 2 spaces to make 2 installations. And part of both installations is now at your museum, at Imagine. And perception is basically 13 times exactly the same shape, but in different materials. And what it does is when you, so I was telling you about the slit for the mail, but we all have memories of how we look through, how we peep through the keyhole in a door or something. Maybe we heard something in our parents' room and we were curious or whatever, it doesn't matter. But, we had these moments of peeping through a small hole. And actually, that is exactly what we all do, because none of us have the full 360-degree timeless, because don't forget time, timeless view of what's going on in our universe. So perception really is about how much we see, how we see it, and why we see it the way we do. Because we are all different. Not 2 of us are alike. We are born in a certain place. We have had or have certain parents. We've had a certain education. We have a certain gender. We have a certain race. We speak a certain language. We eat certain food. So all of that has kind of conditioned us. So we're conditioned by our education, our surroundings, our travels, our friends, our family, all of that. So how do you make that visible as a sculptor? And please, Natalia, if you like, go ahead and just show some more of these slides. What I did, because I'm a sculptor, was use the same form again and again, but use different materials. And every material has a certain, I would say, evokes a certain feeling in the viewer. Like when it's transparent glass, it becomes a lens almost, and you don't just see that thing, but you see reflections and you see optical illusions and so on. When it's something that's more solid, you're more aware of the slit in the middle, and your eye keeps going around, but going back to the hole and then back to the piece. when it's like this blue aluminum shape that is painted like a fast super sports car, again, there is immediately, just looking at it, just seeing that high gloss blue paint, you have to think of a sports car or something else that's flashy and fast and all of that. So here you have 3 out of 13 or 13 different shapes. You have 3 shapes that are the same, but still they evoke different feelings, different emotions, and also different thoughts in your mind, and maybe even an inspiration. So here's on the left, beautiful, beautiful stone from high up in the Andes. It's so high up, they can't take machinery to excavate this stone, so they actually do it by hand and then have donkeys to bring it down the mountains. Very special stone with beautiful colors. And from left to right, there's a brushed aluminum, then there's the clear crystal one, there's a chrome plated bronze one, and then in the back there's a black marble piece. Black marble makes you think of me, it makes me think of churches and graveyards and tombstones and all of that, you know. So there's a white marble one in this picture. That white marble has a virgin quality. It's so clean and kind of I would almost say innocent. It has such a purity to it. Wonderful. So every one of these different materials and different colors evoke different feelings. So that's what perception is about, that we're all seeing something different. And what was really interesting was that people would actually look at those pieces and come out of that space and not realize that all 13 shapes were absolutely identical. And I thought that meant that in a way, I've you know, the proof is always in the pudding. In this case, the proof is in perception. So
I
go
would
ahead.
say, Peter, when people see it here,
Yeah.
and we have your explanation on the wall, and it is something that they marvel at. I think they get it immediately. And then once that they walk around and observe all of the different materials, then there is another wave of perception that comes, you know. So it is first they see it. I love your description about the slit, because we all are familiar with that, but then you know, it almost hits our viewers in 2 ways, which I think is also a testimony to your proof that's in the pudding. So go ahead and talk about the 7 bodies.
As long as there's a response, I've done something right, because basically art is about communication. So if people see the work and they get some of that energy and of the idea, the concept behind it, then I'm a very happy person.
Yes, yes.
So this is a picture of the 7 bodies. The 7 bodies are about human potential. And I see human potential in the broader sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the body here, as you can tell, is a very abstract figure. Again, 7 times exactly the same figure, the same sculpture. The idea behind that was because I didn't want to give an indication of gender. I didn't want to give an indication of race. I didn't want to give an indication of body, even whether you're small or tall or obese, it doesn't matter. This is about who we are as people and how our bodies, I'll talk about this, how they all have their own potential. When you look at the first one on the left side, that's the physical body. We've all watched what sportsmen and women from around the world were doing in Tokyo at the Olympics. And that's what we can achieve when we train our physical body to the extent that we become almost, I would say almost superhuman. We keep running faster and faster. Isn't that amazing? These machines that we can tune to do exactly what we want them to do. I think that's phenomenal about the physical body. It looks like water here, as you can tell, because 70% of our body is fluid. The next one is the intellectual body, if you like, the mental body. The fact that we can train our minds to write novels, right, Barbara, or to have crazy ideas, or to come up with solutions for real issues, for real problems. Those little thoughts that are enlightening to us, I've put in this structure of white by casing them in gold. So they're the little aha moments. They're those little initiations that we have that make us, I would say, that make us wiser and more mature. Third one, the emotional body. Of course, I've used this almost pinkish amethyst. Why? Because for me, emotions and amethyst just go together, falling in love, feeling homesick, all the richness of feelings that we have, emotions that we have. The emotional body is all about the richness of our heart, what we can feel. The fourth one is the vibrational body. Now, this is a body that we are often not very aware of. But the vibrational body is, how do we feel? Where is our energy? What's our vibration? And how is that perceived by others? Why is it that somebody can walk into a room and that person changes the energy in the room so much that people turn their heads around without knowing why they're doing it to look at that person? And I'm not talking about a beautiful girl that walks into a bar. I'm talking about anyone who feels very energetic, very, I would say, in tune with his or her energy and with the energy of what's going on at that moment in the world. So the vibrational body can be low when we feel low, or can be very high. Let's say when you're madly in love, the vibrational body is like, when you're in love, you can conquer the world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. What I love about these pieces that are here on display, and I'll have you go through and describe the last three.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Okay.
and then I'll give you comment.
Please do. So the spiritual body for me is about our awareness that there is more than that meets the eye, that there is more that's going on that is on a different level, but a level that we can actually reach through meditation or through moments of clarity, of insight, of little moments of enlightenment, So the spiritual body is about our potential as spirits, as people that, as creatures that come from source and carry source within themselves. I'll get back to that. Now, the middle one is, for me, the most, I would say, the one that I feel attracted to most, because it's about creativity. It's the creative body. So we can have the power of our physical, our physical capabilities, or our mental capabilities, our heart. But what do we do with it? How do we have this inspiration, these feelings, these thoughts, and then transform them into creativity? Whether we write, whether we make music, whether we dance, whether we entertain our kids, whether you talk about your work, everything is creativity. It's different forms of creativity. Some of it is in material, so it stays. Other, like a song, is being performed and then it kind of disappears, but it's still there somewhere. We can hum it in and repeat it in ourselves, or even be uplifted by it. So by our creative body, I think we are connected to creation itself. And if you would ask me, what's your idea of God? I would say God is creation. Mm-hmm. If there is a God, I don't know what he looks like, or what she looks like, or what it looks like. To me, it doesn't really matter that much. What matters is that the source, with the big S, like you said earlier, is creation. So the last piece, to me, the ethereal body is, as you can see, the body itself is kind of almost non-existent, but in the core of it, we look through a window, we see this gold beam. It's the connection that we have before we are incarnated into this earthly life, and the connection that we will still have when we leave this earthly body. It is how we are always connected to source, and how therefore we will never be gone. We exist, we will remain, we will still exist after we shed our physical body, our earthly body. The only thing is we'll be back energy. We'll be going back to that source of energy and creation. So these are, for me, the 7 bodies that capture our human potential in the broadest sense. So now back to you, Jane.
I only wanted to comment, and for me, the view I always have is watching our guests as they go through the galleries and how they observe the work. So when they see the 7 bodies, we first, I like to watch them come in, adapt themselves to what they're seeing, and then I ask them to identify their favorite piece, and then to see what was the particular body they chose. Mm-hmm. It is almost like a badge of honor. I mean, it's almost like reading their horoscope or something. That's me. That is absolutely me. I chose the one, and now, and so again, it just gives them more opportunity to really delve into the work, which is important, because as we know in the museum, people that really go around museums sometimes don't have more than 5 seconds that they're looking at a piece. Yeah. But because that your work really encourages the viewer to look deeper. And I just want to say that that's my observation here. And I do think that people are really, that transcendent nature about your work. I think they experience that when they see the 7 bodies. Mm. So that's my comment about that. And now move into the room. The gallery I'm sitting in right now. So let's talk a little bit about the next series that we have on display here.
I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because that really warms my heart. I'm delighted that people take the time and allow themselves to be touched by the work. That's phenomenal.
Well, and me too. So when I see artists that actually have that connection, that their work makes that connection, I think it's important to let you know. So
thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, here I am on a bowsprit in the Antarctic, my favorite spot to be. So we love traveling. Jenna and I travel as much as we can, which is very difficult in this time, but we definitely try to meet up and go places. But this was a very special one, a very special trip I made on a square rig 3-master to the Antarctic. And later on, I also went to Iceland and Greenland and Svalbard or Spitsbergen. So earlier on, I was touched by nature in different parts of the world, in Bali, in the rainforests in Malaysia, in on Cook Islands and Rarotonga, but probably I was nowhere touched as much as in the Antarctic, because the Antarctic is an ice desert. It's desolate. It's a place that we can't really live unless we adapt by, you know, building sheds and stuff and bringing in stuff to heat us, to heat our space and all of that. It's a hostile environment, but it's of incredible beauty. And at the time, I was still working in blown glass. And I was using growl technique and double growl technique to translate my impressions, not to copy nature, but to translate my impressions and the feelings that I had and what I saw, and the animals and the boat and all of that. But in the translation, something was lost. And what was lost was that I couldn't translate icebergs. So here's an example of a double growl, a big double growl. You know, colors, the structures, I could work with that. I could feel into the landscapes of the Antarctic and translate that into my vessels. But you can't translate an iceberg into something that's blown, because glass is a liquid and wants to go around. And especially when you're blowing and you try to make it sharp and edgy, you would have to cut, you know, afterwards or whatever. What happened was that as I am trained as a sculptor, I looked at different possibilities to do something with that huge inspiration that I had, that I felt, of these floating icebergs that were like, you know, like a divine landscape full of, well, I would say a divine sculpture garden, you know, with the most beautiful, beautiful sculptures. So I started using a technique that many of you are familiar with, which is basically called kiln cast work. Now, casting, when we think casting, we think of taking a liquid material like glass or bronze and kind of throwing that into a mold. This is not like bronze casting. It's not like a lost wax. In this case, what you do is you make a model to begin with, which can be of clay or wax, or in my case, rent shape, which is blocks of foam that I carve, like I would carve wood or stone. And then I take my model to the Czech Republic, where the mold makers there make molds to go around. I let them do it because they're the experts. And then we fill that mold. Once it's dry, we fill it with glass, cold, and put the whole thing in the kiln, heat it up till the glass melts and takes over the original form. But that is easier said than done, because these are open mold castings, which means there's always one flat surface on one side. And sometimes that's fine, and you just have to grind and polish everything. And sometimes that's not doing it, you know, because you want the back as much sculpted as the front or the sides. So we experimented with using, this was actually, the blue and white piece was actually done in Germany by with Michael Behrens. We worked together on this. We experimented with mixing colors, which was and still is a challenging thing to do, because glass can crack easily, as we all know. So another huge step for me was when we found out that there was some glass that was created in a way that the expansion rate was so low that it can actually be outside. And to be inspired by nature, and then being able to bring that inspiration back to nature by making these sculptures that can be outside year-round, in the cold and the heat, in glass, that responds to the light, the changes in light, the changes in color. You know, is it the gray sky? Is it dusk, or is it dawn? And how does it reflect all the colors in the sky? And in that way, it's very much like the icebergs. I mean, I've seen icebergs that were pink or that were golden because they were just reflecting the sky. Nobody believes it unless you've seen it yourself, but it's gorgeous. So working with glass, to me, is like working with ice. It's just that it's solid enough that it doesn't melt away, you know? So if these were actually made in ice, it would be a matter of time before they just become puddles. And if any of this glass lasts long enough, then maybe it could turn into a puddle. But you know, we know that glass never becomes completely solid. It still moves. It's still to some extent fluid. But I don't think any of us will still be around to see that. When I was flying over the Sahara, I looked out of the plane and I looked down and I noticed that the shape of the dunes reminded me completely of the shapes of waves in the water. And I realized that the deserts and the seas are very much alike in that sense. And I made this in 2006. Not knowing that I would meet Janet in 2009 in Sedona, Arizona, and that would actually inspire me, Janet, and the landscape, to start making canyons and deserts. So like I said earlier, you said it, inspiration can come in many forms and can come from anywhere. For me, it has often been nature, but it can also be something I read, or you know, this beautiful cheetah that we visited in, what is it? It's a rescue service in South Africa that Jenna and I were lucky enough to visit. And it's incredible to be that close to a cheetah, you know, and to be able to just touch its skin and oh my God, I mean, I still get great vibrations going to my body just from that memory. Wasn't that delightful, Janet? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So here you are, Slot Canyon, one of the probably the most photographed canyons in the world is Antelope Canyon near Page, up in the very corner of Arizona. Really something special, really something well worth a visit. Something to fly over from Europe just to see that, just to be able to walk through these slot canyons and see how the light plays with the shapes and changes the shapes. And as you can tell from the piece on the right, very inspiring to me, something that really touched me deeply. And yeah. Waves, the piece on the right is called Waves. We make waves. Wherever we go, we leave a splash, whether it's our footprint in the sand or in the soil, or whether we, I don't know, whether we scratch our name in a tree or you know, wherever we go, we absorb what is there, but at the same time, we leave our energy, we leave our imprint. We've spoken to people, we've had meetings, we maybe ate the food or tried to talk in a different language. You know, by the way, my Chinese is outstanding, just so you know. I don't speak any Chinese, but you know, wherever you go, you kind of you jump in, you allow yourself to be completely absorbed by that place that you are, but at the same time, you absorb it in you. So there's a connection. And that connection creates a transformation. I don't think you can go to a place like, for instance, the Antarctic and not be touched by its beauty profoundly and be changed by the experience. Now, there's something completely different. About that in a second, but the real wonder, I think, of traveling, if you travel with an open mind and an open heart, is that you create a connection with the place you went to, the people you went to, the landscape, the meetings you had, the talks you had, the food you eat, the drinks, you know, and especially if you go with somebody else, then you can talk about it years later and say, oh, do you remember when we were there and we were sitting on that beach and we had that fish that we caught, you know, and they prepared it for us and we had 4 bottles of wine. Oh my God, I'm surprised I can even remember it at all. You know, it's traveling really enriches you on many different levels. And when I go back to the 7 bodies, traveling can really touch each of your bodies, you know, and that's why I often tell people, you know, don't postpone what you want to do or what you want to see. You know, if you want to go somewhere, don't say, oh, I've got so much other things to do, to take care of first. I will do it when I'm older, because there is no such thing. You have to do it when you can, you know, and so yes, do travel, please. And maybe if you travel to Norfolk, Virginia, and you stay at the Glass and Light Hotel, you can actually meet this bunny, and there's a second one too. And I know that Natalia, who's doing the slideshow here, just came back from there, and I know she enjoyed them very much. Didn't you, Natalia?
Yes.
Yeah, let me, it was fabulous. It was such an interesting, such a unique hotel. And the collection they built the hotel around the collection. So yes, it was a really spectacular experience.
Yeah, and when you check in at the front desk, you'll be greeted by this little tapping bunny, which is not so little, as you can tell. And when you then go to the bar to have a well-deserved drink, you can meet Pops. There's a reclining bunny who's about 6 feet tall, and who looks extremely relaxed. And they actually created and still create drinks to keep Pops the bunny entertained and to make sure that he stays there, you know. They have these amazing drinks that you can get.
Yeah,
I love
actually, we
that.
have we have a short video from the experience curator there, and you can see that bunny behind her when she's talking about her favorite piece, 7 bodies.
Can you show that? Can you show that video? I'd love to see it.
Go for it. Run it right now, Natalia.
Unless we're mixing up your program.
No, actually, it was right in line as what we were going to show. Testimonials.
Testimonial. Somebody's asking what the name is of the hotel in Norfolk. It's called the Glass Light Hotel and Gallery.
But what I found so special about the 7 bodies was how each structure that he created was the same exact size, same exact shape, but the feelings were all different, and they were all so representative of what they were supposed to portray. So you had the physical body, the ethereal body, the intellectual body, and each one of them has their own special features. My favorite was the intellectual body. Just like the stripes within the bunnies, he created triangular stripes, very complex towards the bottom, very clear white shapes, and then it loosened up as it got to the top, and at the very top he incorporated gold leaf, which was supposed to represent those golden ideas you have, and I remember him speaking about that. And it really did. It touched me, it blew me away, and it excited me.
Go into the other piece also, Natalia, the other testimonial.
I'm Bill Lennox.
And I'm
My wife.
Ann. For me, I loved the Arctic piece because we have been up to Alaska, and so it was Glacier Bay. I mean, you could see it, and so it was really wonderful to have that feeling again. I love bringing the grandkids because it teaches that you can look at things differently, but most of all, the creativity is really an important part and gives you energy.
And it makes you want to learn more about how these are made, and
Totally unique from anything you're going to see anywhere else.
it really is. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
How about that, Peter?
Oh, I love it.
I do too, which is a great segue then as we move forward. And as you know, as with many of the glass artists know, because it's the first time that people have experienced glass in this way. You know, they might know of Chihuly or maybe not. And so when they come into this museum, they have no foundation to know. So going through your exhibition, and given the complexity of all of the different pieces, of course, they want to know what is the process. And so again, you've sent over some slides to talk about the process with the video. And so as we run those, why don't you talk over those processes?
Okay.
Is it the video first? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So this is what I do. Listen to this. Look at the photo. Oh, there's no sound. That's good. That's good.
Okay, talk over
So,
it then.
This is exactly what I do. I take a big piece of hard foam. It's called Wren Shape 5025. It is stupid expensive, but what is so good about it is about as soft or as hard as pine wood, but it has no direction. It's a foam. So basically, I can work it the way I would work in wood, but it's faster, and it also I can work very detailed. It's very important because the more detailed my model is, the better the mold is, and that helps to achieve the best version of that foam sculpture in glass. So you can see I cut it with a chainsaw. This is my normal kind of outfit. I wear an overall that's dust proof. I have a thing around my head, so my face is just out of it, and I wear goggles and you know, a dust mask, and I just look ridiculous because I look like I'm actually working in some kind of a drugs laboratory or something, you know, making LSD or something fun like that. But that's not the case. I'm basically working in these blocks of foam, cutting it like, you know, like any sculptor does. You work. Well, there's two ways of working for a sculptor. You can work from the outside inward, which means you take away, whether you use marble or you use wood, or in my case, foam. Now, if you work in clay or wax, you do the opposite. You build up, and you can take away and build up some more and take away again. For me, I really enjoy and this, by the way, is Michael Behrens, a dear colleague who once, before he got famous, was actually a student of mine, and later my assistant. And we still work together. He's a dearest friend. So we still do stuff and enjoy talking about, you know, discussing our work. Anyway, for me, to work from the outside in is extremely rewarding because it goes with my energy. I love the challenge, and I get bored fast. So by working in this fast material and being able, even when I make something really big that I work on for months, being able to realize that whatever I take away is definite. I can't, unless I would glue another piece to it, I can't get that back. What's gone is gone, like you would have with marble or with wood. I love that. I love that tension. It's something that I find inspiring and uplifting. Actually, being in my studio is sheer happiness for me. Even if I'm frustrated because I'm not getting what I want, or I'm not happy with the result, being in my studio and being in the flow of creation is the most rewarding thing I can do. You know, always gives me energy, always puts a smile on my face. Or sometimes I get annoyed, but that's not good.
Yes, of course.
So sometimes you get crazy people who commission crazy things, like a bunny, you know. I love to do commissions because commissions force me to think outside of my own realm, you know, of my own inspiration of the moment. So when somebody says, I want a large outdoor sculpture, and this is the place I have in mind, and you come to that place and you see that there's a pond on the left and there's a lake on the right, and then there's huge trees, and that person says, that's why I want a glass sculpture. You look at that and you think, this thing has to be big or it's going to get lost, you know. And in this case, I was lucky enough to have a couple of glass enthusiasts that were willing to be bewitched by me, to be honest, to spend the money and the time and the and have the trust to allow me to create the biggest piece by so far that I've created. And so the picture in the middle is a very important one. Like I said, I don't do my own castings. I don't do my own molds. I know how to make a mold, but this is at Lochotski Studio. The people at Lochotski have, they have staff that all they do is make molds day in, day out. They know exactly how to make a mold. So it's the best mold for glass to flow. So we discuss, especially when you do something big and difficult like this sculpture, we discuss every element. And it's very important that, and I don't speak Czech, and most of them speak very little English. It's very important that we understand each other from the model and the experience of the glass towards the execution, you know. So in this case, Lubir on the left side, Lubor, I should say, on the left side is the guy who actually prepares the glass before we put it into the mold. And on the right is somebody who I worship, is my dear friend who does grinding and polishing, who is the very, very best at it. There's nobody as good as him. He has the brightest mind. He is again, together with Zdeněk Losky, Robert Husek is an artist in his own right. Zdeněk Losky, who's the owner of this foundation, is a foundry, is an artist in his own right. All the people that work there are artisans, but they are beyond just somebody who knows a craft. They think along with the artist. They come up with solutions. They come up with ideas. I mean, basically, the model, the shape, is what I have in mind. It's what I've made in my studio. But I could not create my work if I wouldn't be working with these wonderful people in the Czech Republic. And I work with 4 different foundries. Lhotsky is the biggest one, and they do all the big work. And actually, a lot of what's behind you was done there. But some of those pieces were actually done by other people there, and I love them all because, you know, they help me to realize the dreams that I dream, and that's a big gift for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for the shout out to Michael Behrens, because we also have Michael's work in the museum here as well.
You do, yeah.
And actually in the preceding gallery from your exhibition.
Mhm.
So I know you're working on a new series, and I also know you have moved studios over this past spring and summer. And because I follow you on Facebook and or Instagram, I do see some progress, or I do see some final pieces. So talk about your new series, Vibrations. Just what inspired that, and how far along are you in that process?
So I'm working on a new series called Vibrations. We are vibration. Everything is vibration. Vibration is energy. Energy is vibration. Even a piece of stone is actually vibration. It's on a molecular level and even smaller level.
Sure.
Things are moving. You know, it looks like a solid and it doesn't move anywhere, but it's actually condensed energy. So if you realize that everything is vibration, what does it mean when we look at the world, when we deal with COVID, when we deal with issues like global warming, floods, and all these things that are going on right now? Everything is in vibration. Everything is moving. Everything is moving around as well. We move around. We hop on planes like we used to hop on a bicycle. You know, we take a plane as easy as we would take the bus. We're in a time on this planet where not just the planet itself is moving and the universe is moving, we are moving all the time. Our brains are moving. We have thoughts. Those are vibrations. You know, when we talk, that's a vibration. Sound is a vibration. Light is a vibration. Everything is vibration. And I find that for me, to kind of stop a vibration in its track and capture it in a sculpture is something that is really is something that makes me stop in my track and think about what I'm doing and what's going on and how I respond to the world and what I let in and how I deal with that, or how I decide not to deal with it, how I sometimes don't want to deal with it, you know, all the issues that are going on. So this work is quite serious, but at the same time, laughing is also vibration. So to me, there's also a sense of fun. And here I'm actually working on one of the vibration pieces. So a lot of what I do is sanding. There's a lot of sanding.
Yes.
I know there's sound to this. As I don't hear it, I'll just talk you through it. Mm-hmm. So again, this is the wrench-shaped material. Starting off with cutting it with a saw, sometimes a chainsaw, and then using angle grinders and stuff like that. What I use a hell of a lot is that little thing that I'm holding right there, which is a scraper, a metal scraper, which allows me to go hollow And then that scraper, which allows me to go round, and different kinds of sandpaper or grinding materials that I use mostly handheld, or sometimes on a wood block or a rubber block, but a lot of it is simply using my hands. And the interesting thing is, because of this, the way this foam reflects light, it's sometimes quite difficult to see if the surface is as smooth as I want it to be. And the best way to look is actually using the tips of your hand, preferably the hand that is not your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I use the fingers of my left hand to go over the surface, even without looking at it, and I will feel every bump and every little thing that needs to smooth out, and working in this way, this is interesting because this is the back side of what you just saw me work on from the front. And why is this important? Why do I want to share this with you? Because this is going to be glass. So I'm making something that's going to be transparent, that you can look through, where you can actually see the back of the piece and the front of the piece and the material in the middle, the space inside. And here it is on the left-hand side. And now you can see what I meant, that so what's going on in the back, you can see in the front as well. So that interaction that's taking place, you can only do in glass. That's why I love glass. It's four-dimensional. It goes beyond time. It allows you to look 360 degrees around it while you're just standing at it and look at it from the front. That's incredible. So you can walk around it, but you can actually see the back and the front at the same time. So this new series to me is very exciting. It gives lots of possibilities, and it makes me think about, for instance, this is like a leaf shape, but that leaf has a vibration, has an energy in it, and the holes are like almost interruptions, like little peepholes, that you can look through. So you can see the surrounding area when you look at this. Like the piece on the right that completely changes color when the sky changes color. This is placed in Frankfurt, and it overlooks the Mainz, the river, and it's quite incredible and spectacular how it responds to responds to light and to the change in the day. This I have to look on my paper now. This piece has a complicated title. It's called Vibrations, Rhythm, Waves and Interruptions. And to me, it's almost a monument for what life is to me, how we have our moments of flow, when we just flow, we just go, everything goes smooth, everything's easy. And then we have our interruptions, and we don't know what to do, and we have to stop and contemplate, and ask for help, and ask the universe for help, and see what our next step is. So life is a little bit like climbing a ladder. When you get to the top of the ladder, you notice that you're still at the bottom of it, kind of. It feels that way.
I got it.
We have all these experiences. We get richer in what we see, what we've experienced, what we think, what we understand. But at the same time, there's so much more. And that's why I created this in a way where it looks like it just comes out of the ground, so to speak, and it just goes up. It ends somewhere up in the sky. But this is more than 7.5 feet tall. Wow. It really is, as you can see, I'm standing next to it. It really is a big sculpture, and it still hasn't been shown. It's only been shown like this, you know. And this is my latest, and it's called Vibrational Deity. And I have this is pictures, this is photographed in my garden at my new house. And I see the sun come up and it shines on it, and then there's a cloud coming over and it looks different. And then the sun is behind it, and you can see how it has that beautiful glow from the inside. And what I really love about this, that this piece to me is about the divine. It's about the deities. It's about when you see images of Maria, the mother of Jesus, so many artists have portrayed her with a scarf around her face that would come down almost in a wavy pattern. Now, because I'm not really a churchgoer or believing much in church or in religion as such, I believe more in spirituality. I like the image of that halo without actually showing a face. Instead, there's a hollow. So you could imagine any face to be in that hollow, you know. So the deity is the divine in all of us. And how nice to actually end with this, you know, to show that piece. Oh, there's one more. Oh, there's always one more. Yeah. There's always one more. Jane, it's the truth. There's always one more. I keep making. I love making. I see Steve. I see him smile because I know that Steve is exactly the same.
Yes. Yes.
So,
yes. It's a beautiful series, and quite an interesting series that you're doing it during this time of COVID, and the holes that are in the sculptures are particularly meaningful to me. And just seeing them, it's like, how does that energy regroup, right? How do that, when something happens unexpected, how does that vibration shift in order to adapt to whatever is there? So very wonderful explanation about that. So as we draw to a close of your presentation with us, Peter, what kind of plans, as we perhaps knock on wood or something around us, what are your plans moving forward once that travel can begin again for you?
I will come and see my exhibition at the Imagine Museum.
Well, I was just going to say.
That will be the very first thing I will do. Janet will fly over from Arizona and I will fly in from Holland, and we'll meet in Florida and we'll come and see you, Jane.
Oh,
and,
my goodness, that would
Trish
be,
will be there too.
oh, that would be such a pleasure, such a pleasure. Good. Well, then the invitation is always open.
Thank you.
Let me open it up to the audience. Is there anyone that has any questions for Peter while we have him here? And if so, maybe you can just unmute yourself and then ask your questions.
I actually have a question for you, Peter. Would you describe your process of discovery when it comes to generating a body of work? So for instance, 7 Bodies is a really highly conceptual body of work. Where does that come from in your head?
That's a very good question. Actually, Kurt, a lot of it is very intuitive, and it feels to me like I'm channeling. So ideas come to me and they literally knock me on the head, and it's almost like, hey, pay attention. Here's an idea. Think about it. The 7 Bodies came to me years ago, and I had one of my famous many notes, you know, papers, little things, and I wrote it down because it came when I was lying in the bathtub and I didn't have paper or pen. I actually jumped out of the bathtub to write down the 7 Bodies, and I didn't even have names for everything yet, but I knew there were 7 bodies and they all had meaning, they all had potential, And they basically, for me, they basically talk about the tremendous diversity that we have as thinking, feeling, spiritual human beings in this life, on this planet, in this universe, you know, and sometimes inspiration is obvious, like the Antarctic was so much inspiration that I had to let it go for 6 months before I could even start to really channel that inspiration into actual sculptures. And sometimes inspiration has the weirdest way of, like I said, knocking on my door and just presenting itself. But I would say a lot of it is very intuitive. And maybe that is why I do so many very different series and very different work.
Is Trish on this Zoom? Kurt, is Trish on the Zoom? Okay.
Let me go through the list here.
I thought I saw her come through.
Yeah, she came in earlier, but I don't see her right now.
Okay, I just, if she was still on, I wanted to give her an opportunity to say hello to Peter, but as we are moving on, I do want to remind people that Peter is, his exhibit is on view here at Imagine Museum until January 16th. And I can't encourage you more to come and see the exhibit if you haven't. And for those of you who have joined us today, I also want to remind you of our 50% off membership sale that we're having through the month of August. So if you're looking for a good time to join, it would be now. It gives you the opportunity for free admissions. I'm going to run this video. Okay, go for it, Natalia. Great. So if you haven't done it yet, please, this is a good month to purchase your membership. And also, if you live in Sarasota or Manatee counties, this is our month where we give a $5 admission to all residents of Sarasota or Manatee to come up and to experience Imagine Museum. And Peter, so that does it for us, I think, today. And do you have any last comments?
Well, I was going to say, you know, for the very the 5 first subscribers to the museum will get a free piece of glass, but I should do that.
Okay, I'm number 1 then. Okay.
I'm second.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much, Jane and Natalia and Kurt. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Lovely to see you all.
Oh gosh,
thank you guys for tuning in for the Zoom. And
absolutely. So hard to say goodbye to you, Peter. Stay healthy.
Bye.
Stay creative. Love
bye,
you.
sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.